So Travis, Sam and I were just talking. This presentation didn't have a whole lot to it, so I'm going to combine it with the last one that we've got on protection to kind of give it, a sort of a full meat. And then also next week, next Sunday, I'm going to be on that backpacking trip with Brett. So
nice.
We're not going to have a meet next week. So kind of works out.
Well, it works out well for you.
What's that?
That works out well for you.
Well, yeah, it does. And then, so then you can put together your presentation for next week if you'd like.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this since there is some stuff here. And so when we talk about fires, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of common sense to think about, but then again, you can't just always assume that everybody's going to have all that common sense. So, there's, at least in our local area, there's time and a place that it's appropriate, and you need to know your regulations. Obviously, approved areas may change throughout, the season, which makes sense as well. And most of the areas in the Sierra are going to not be allowed to have a fire above 10,000 feet. And then also, use prescribed fire pits and rings and clean areas, of ignitable fuels for sure. And it's always, good practice to, leave no trace in the backcountry, burn scars and things like that on that sort of thing. Be a minimalist if, that's just kind of being good stewards of the wild places and things like that. Now there are campground areas, picnic areas, day use areas, things like that are set aside and designed for those places. But, just kind of keep all those kinds of things in mind. Got a couple videos here that we can kind of go through, just pretty basic stuff, how to build a fire. Again, sort of common sense on a lot of this stuff, but yet.
A good camp out deserves a good campfire, but not every fire is built the same. We're going to go over 3 common ways to arrange the wood so your campfire goes up in flames. Make sure you always use a designated fire ring that's well away from any flammable grasses or trees. Keep enough water on hand so you can put out the fire. And be sure to check your campground's regulations, especially those about gathering firewood. To build any type of fire, you'll need 3 types of fuel: tinder, kindling, and fuel wood. Tinder is anything that catches fire quickly. Dry bark and leaves or pine needles are great natural options. Homemade options like dryer lint or cotton balls coated in petroleum jelly also work. You can also use store-bought fire starters. Kindling consists of small sticks, which burn longer than tinder to help ignite your fuel wood. Fuel wood are the larger logs that burn long into the night. One common and quick campfire to build is the teepee. It lights easily and doesn't need a lot of wood, but you'll need to tend the fire more than the other options. Put the tinder and small kindling in the middle and build a cone of smaller logs around it. Once the fire is going strong, you can gather the wood and embers and throw on some larger logs. Be careful not to smother the flames. One of the nice things about the log cabin technique is that you can get a relatively big fire going pretty quickly. You don't have to tend it much, and you'll end up with lots of hot coals. Start by laying down a couple larger logs with a gap between them. Then place a couple more logs across, like you're building a log cabin. Be sure to leave some space in the middle for airflow for the tinder and kindling. Now add a couple more layers with some slightly smaller logs. When the structure is ready, add some more tinder and kindling and light it up. When the fire has burned down a bit, you can gather the coals into a pile and add more wood. An upside-down fire, also called a pyramid, is a great option for when you want a long burning fire that doesn't need much tending once it gets started. Lay 4 or so of your largest logs on the bottom, with as little space between them as possible. Then add another layer of slightly smaller logs across the first layer. Continue adding layers until you have a pyramid with the smallest pieces on top. Now, pile your tinder and kindling on the top of the stack and light it up. Once the fire gets started, it will slowly burn through each layer of logs, and you'll be able to enjoy the fire for hours without having to add more wood. When you're ready to put out your fire, pour some water on the embers and stir them around. Remember that you don't want to leave the fire until the ashes are cool to the touch. Keep adding water and stirring, but be careful not to flood the fire ring. You may want to build another fire soon. To learn more about camping and backcountry fires, click here or check out these videos.
So any thoughts on any of that stuff, Travis? You got anything you want to share or anything like that?
Yeah, fire building is one of my favorite things in the world. There's very few times, you were mentioning earlier, that I build a fire on a backpacking trip ever. But at the same time, when you do get a chance to go sit around a fire, it's enjoyable. But the idea of those three are great. I always tell this to people: if you are gathering wood, you think you have enough, you don't have enough. If you think you have enough tinder, you don't have enough. If you think you have enough kindling, you don't have enough. So as much as you need, you're going to have to gather a lot. Certain areas they're saying about burns and so forth, like burn permits and things. You need a burn permit in a lot of areas just to light a stove, let alone a fire. So fires in most of these areas are such a what do I want to call it? They're not going to happen because you need a fire permit to burn a stove. So I would say just be very cautious, make sure you're checking all the right criteria and everything like that. But yeah, the other thing I'll say is green wood does not burn well.
Yeah, it's I mean, you can probably get away with it if you have a good set of coals going or something like that, but to try to start something with green, even green cones and stuff like that you might find around, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for sure.
I got a question.
Yeah.
My question is, if you are doing some backcountry camping, meaning you didn't bring your vehicle close to the campsite, are there any like essential tools that you would want a backpacker to bring along so that you would have a successful, because you can't bring a fire ring, obviously, anything like that, but what things would you need to bring if you were backcountry backpacking campfire starting?
Well, I think, Sam, it's kind of what you saw in the video. You just sort of do your own sort of natural version of what they had. I mean, you can gather stones around just to kind of contain, your coals and things like that. Things to really, I think one of the biggest things to watch out for is going to be wind or potential wind and the blowing around of those coals once they get going. And then having some, what type of water source are you going to have? And, if something, say got away from you and you had to try to put something out, or do you have a container that would be big enough, more than say your water bottle or something like that, which probably for me, the first thing I would do is probably just empty my bear canister real quick. But, those kinds of things, but just kind of keeping a fire ring. And like Travis said, just a small fire is completely adequate. I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the longer trips that Tony and I did, week-long trips. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we even ever had a campfire. But we were in areas that you could have below 10,000 feet at times. But it's sometimes just not worth the hassle or risk, or maybe you're just the sun goes down. I'm going to bed. I'm tired, kind of thing too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. That's use all the same tools as far as putting the fire together and getting it started and stuff, but maybe a little bit on a smaller scale, I would think, typically.
I was going to say, one of the big things, I try to emphasize this to people all the time. People are like, why are we having a campfire when we go backpacking? I take people backpacking and they're like, I want to a campfire. I'm like, oh, this isn't the time to have a campfire. But a campfire, when you build a campfire, it's the rule of 10, which sounds really weird, but 10 feet down, 10 feet wide, and 10 feet up, you're going to kill every living microorganism in that area, which then you talked about your burn scar earlier. The burn scar is 10 feet down into the ground. So anything that was living there is no longer living there. Anything that was 10 feet away from the fire is no longer going to live in that spot. Anything that is 10 feet above it is typically no longer going to live in that spot. So you just put a huge burn scar on the ground. It does some pretty good damage. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking about leave no trace and things like that. Even the, there may not be much of a trace of it, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point. Very good point. So, this is basically your typical, campfire permit, California version of it. A lot of times they'll be accompanying with your wilderness permit or those types of things, but it's obviously you need to check your jurisdiction, whether you're in a national park, whether it's your national forest or whether you're just out, wherever. There is going to be some sort of regulation giving some rules on this stuff.
Can I talk on that permit thing for a second?
Absolutely. When we go back to it, or
no, you're good. You're good. You can leave it off that. Permits, it's interesting. So in Sequoia Kings Canyon, if you get a burn permit, depending on the fire season and what the ratings are, if it's a high fire rate or high fire danger, low, medium, so forth, it'll change your burn permit and what you're getting. So they actually classify a solo stove, the one, that little tin can looking thing that you can build a little small fire in to cook your food in, and it generates heat to power your cell phone or whatever. They'll classify that as a fire. And then if you use a whisper light versus a canister stove, they'll classify a whisper light stove as a fire because it does not have an off switch. If it has an off switch, it's considered a stove, but an off switch means you turn it off and it immediately goes out. A whisper light doesn't immediately go out versus a canister stove that immediately goes out. So depending on the area and where you are, they're going to classify something different as a stove versus a fire. So it's kind of interesting. There are some rigmaroles with that too.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. That makes complete sense to it, but I wasn't aware that the different I guess the classifications of stoves versus fires versus that sort of thing. So that's really good. Let's get into some other good stuff. Okay, so we're gonna start talking a little bit about protection. Protection from what? What are we talking about when we go out in the wild? Whether it's it could be surfing, it could be anything. Just out. Some things to be aware of. Obviously, things that will find you. Insects will find you. Poison oak, sometimes poison ivy will find you. The sun will find you. And and I always throw the one down there at the bottom with firearms. It's so funny. There's so many people that don't feel comfortable in the outdoors unless they have something like that. And that's a very personal sort of decision. And I don't know. I don't really see it, but that's just me. And so I'm going to talk about a few of these things. Poison ivy and poison oak. Just have a couple diagrams here. One, so they both change throughout the season. They, if you say, "Oh, I know what poison oak looks like," well, okay, do you know what it looks like in winter? Do you know what it looks like in fall, kind of thing? Because it does really change, and some people it really, really affects. And it's one of those things too. I think that the more time you get involved with it, you're going to be getting more involved in it the next time. It kind of, I don't know if it breaks down your resistiveness to it or whatever, but it seems like every time I've gotten poison oak, it's been worse than the previous time. So, Travis, you ever had any issues with like poison ivy?
Yeah, on the East Coast. So on the East Coast, if you're on the Appalachian Trail, it's everywhere. Poison ivy is pretty disgusting, but poison oak out here, I know, just cleaning up brush on our property, we get so much poison oak. It's everywhere. But yeah. Interesting, don't get pretty bad reactions. Afton gets really bad reactions. Afton, like, face will blow up, legs will blow up. She turns into, looks like she has, I don't know, smallpox or something like that.
Yeah. It's nasty stuff. And it can be even worse. There's ways that, somehow if you burn it and then you ingest it, and I've heard horror stories about that as well. You can only imagine really getting deep into your systems. And it's a bad deal.
It doesn't make good toilet paper. I'll tell you that. It doesn't make good toilet paper.
No, it does not.
It looks like it should. It's so soft and nice.
Yeah. That's the most wicked kind of. Yeah. So that being said, do a little bit of homework. In California, poison oak is everywhere, especially in the foothills. It's worth your effort to find out what it looks like and do everything you can to avoid contact with it, because it is you'll have a project for the next week and a half or so, maybe longer. Here's another one of my favorites, which is sort of hit and miss. I mean, when you go out, you go to some place and there are just clouds of them. And then the next time you could go there 10 days later and there's none. So it's really is sort of a, who knows, but there's a lot of ways of treating it. There's a lot of different products out there to help you with it. There's a lot of natural suggestions as well. But let's talk about a little bit on.
Hey, I'm Katie with REI, and today we're going to talk about how to keep the bugs away. We've got a wide range of options, so we've sorted it into categories for you. Some skin-based repellents, some clothing-based repellents, and we'll talk about some tips to keep the bugs away on trail and at camp. No tiki torches today. All right, so in terms of repellents that go on your skin, we have basically two options, DEET and picaridin. DEET's been around since about the 1940s and is considered the gold standard in terms of mosquitoes, ticks, and flies. You can get DEET in anything from 10% to 100% concentration, but maximum effectiveness comes at about 30%. Anything higher than that and you're extending the protection for more hours. One very, very, very important thing to consider about DEET is that it is not good for gear. DEET eats away at plastics and synthetics, so always, always, always wash your hands after you've applied the DEET to yourself, and don't put it on any of your gear. I've heard that people are concerned also about safety when it comes to DEET. The good news is that the EPA has done some research and said that in reasonable amounts, DEET is good for adults and kids. So don't go crazy, but you should be good to go. Option number 2 is picaridin. So picaridin is a synthetic version of a chemical that's found in some pepper plants. Like DEET, you can get it in a whole wide range of concentrations, anything from 10 to 100%, but maximum effectiveness for picaridin comes at about 20%. For the spray version, picaridin lasts for about 12 hours. For the lotion version, picaridin lasts for 14 hours. And like DEET, it works on mosquitoes and ticks, but it actually works on all flies, not just some flies. One thing to keep in mind is that regardless of spray or lotion version, picaridin's insect repellent runs out at about 8 hours for flies. My personal preference between the two of these is actually picaridin for one very key point. Picaridin will not eat away at your gear like DEET does. So your last category of options is going natural. You can use lavender, cedar, lemon and eucalyptus, or peppermint oil to keep the bugs away, but just remember that those methods aren't quite as effective as DEET or picaridin, so you'll have to reapply more frequently. All right, so next up, permethrin is a clothing-based repellent. This one doesn't spray directly on your skin, only goes into your clothes, but you have two ways of going about it. You can either get pre-treated clothing or do it yourself. The plus sides of pre-treated clothing is that the clothing comes with the permethrin already in it. You don't have to do any work, and it actually sticks around for longer, about 70 washes or 10 times as long as if you do it yourself. But you can also buy permethrin by itself and treat clothing that you already know you like. Or, extra bonus, you can treat your gear, your backpack, your tent, your hammock. One thing to keep in mind for do-it-yourself is always, always, always safety first. Read and follow those directions very closely. Other tips to keep the mosquitoes away: avoid wearing strong fragrances, and when you're stopping, try to take breaks or set up camp in breezy areas. Mosquitoes have a hard time tracking you in the wind. Mosquitoes are also out most at dawn and dusk, but for everything in between, apply your sunscreen, wait 15 minutes, and then apply the insect repellent to allow the sunscreen time to bond with your skin. If you have any other questions, ask the experts at your local REI, and as always, check out our other videos for more. See you next time.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean,
it's yeah, very good.
It's very basic and kind of covered pretty much everything. I mean, it really isn't rocket science. I mean, shouldn't be. You can just you can just go with what you got there. So what do you got for Travis?
No, I think she did a good job summing it up. I'm scared of DEET. I don't put that anywhere near anything I own or myself. If it melts clothing, it melts plastic. And why am I going to spray it on my skin?
Yeah, right. What would happen if I got it in my eyes? Or yeah. Oh, nothing. Yeah, it's fine for your eyes, though.
Yeah, for your clothes, it's gonna melt your clothes. I
don't need bifocals anymore. That's great.
Bionic eyes. I was actually at a friend's house one time, and there was a gathering, let's say a social gathering, and a bunch of people had bug spray. And I literally took it at the beginning of the party. I took it from a woman, and I took it and I sprayed it on one of those plastic, like Zephyr Hill water bottles or cheap little plastic water bottles. And I set it there for the length of the party. And about 4 hours later, I went back and looked at the bottle. The bottle started to deform. And she's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't spray that on my skin." I'm like, "I was just saying."
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I think it's really good. That was. All right, let's talk about a little bit some other protections, protecting yourself against bacteria, viruses, things like, what have you. As far as
there are a lot of different types of water treatment. Deciding what to bring on your trip can be overwhelming. We want to help. So here's the deal on how to choose a water filter. So there are two main categories that we talk about when discussing treating your water. And the first one are filters. So filters will use a physical element to remove bacteria and protozoa from the water. And those are the main threats in the US. However, they won't filter out, most filters won't filter out viruses. Viruses are too small and will pass through the pores of a filter. If a product is sold as a purifier, there's a couple of different ways that it will work, but purifiers will neutralize bacteria, protozoa, and viruses. So the first form of a purifier is going to be a chemical purifier. This will use a two-step process where you pre-filter your water and then use a chemical to treat the water. Another type of purifier is a UV purifier, like this one. This will actually use ultraviolet light, which will neutralize any threats in the water without being harmful to you. And then there are some filters that actually have pores small enough and will actually capture viruses. So the first thing that you need to decide for water treatment is whether or not you want a filter or a purifier. If you're in the US, where protozoa and bacteria are the main threat, most people are going to choose a filter. If you're outside of the US or in an area where you're concerned about viruses, or there's a lot of human activity or animal activity, we'd recommend that you choose a purifier. There's a lot of different things to consider after that. Things like weight and size of the filter purifier, ease of use and how easy it is to fix or maintain in the field, the cost, obviously, and then how much water you need to filter. If you're filtering just for yourself, then you might not need to have something that can take a large quantity of water. But if you're filtering for, say, a group camp or a lot of water for cooking, then you need to take that into consideration. The best option for you is going to be something that balances all of those. There's no one magic product that works best for everybody. So first I have pump filters and purifiers. So these will work by having an intake hose that will go into the water source, and then another piece that attaches to wherever you're filtering your water. And essentially you'll pump and the dirty water will come through the hose, go through the filter, and then into your bottle. So the cool things about pump filters is that they're really easy to use and generally very easy to maintain in the field. You can often replace the cartridges and then you can back flush them if they get clogged. You can also decide how much water you want to filter pretty easily because again, if you just keep pumping dirty water, you'll get clean water. I have a pump filter and I'm definitely a fan of the system. Some of the downsides of pump filters is that they are heavier and bulkier than some other forms of water treatment. And if you're treating water for a large group, it can get really old to pump water. So next we have gravity filters. So gravity filters work by having a two-bag system. You fill one with dirty water, and then the water will be pulled through the tube here, through the filter, and then into the clean bag. And you have filtered water. Some of the cool things about gravity filters are, first of all, gravity does all the work for you. So they're really easy to use. You basically just fill this and then wait, and you'll have clean water. So this makes them really awesome for filtering large quantities of water. So they're great for group camps. Also, similar to pump filters, you can easily replace the filter systems themselves, so it makes them easy to maintain in the field. Some downsides of gravity filters are that you have to have a place to hang these bags. And unlike pump filters where you can gather water from really small seepages, with a filter like this, you really need to be able to gather a large quantity of water by putting the bag into the water. So if you don't have something like that nearby, these can be a bit of a challenge. Next, we have drink-through filters and purifiers. This covers a wide range of products, but essentially the way that they'll work is you'll have something to fill and then drink through or uses a squeeze-through filter. So something like this where you have a bag and then a filter in the cap, or there's bags like this that then allow you to squeeze water through the filter. You also have straws that go directly into the water source to drink. Or even filters like this guy where there's a tube that goes into your water source. Some of the really great things about drink-through filters is that they're very easy to use and lightweight and pretty compact, which makes them a great option for trail running or mountain biking or for day hiking. And they're very fast for drinking water. You know, just put this in the source and then you're hydrating. One of the downsides of these drink-through filters is that they don't filter large quantities of water on their own very well, so they're not great for filtering for a camp or even for cooking. But many of them can be used in line as gravity filters, like this one, which solves the issue of not being able to filter a large quantity. So now I have the first of our purifiers. This is an ultraviolet light purifier. This has a UV light down here that you stick into your water bottle and stir around, and that light will neutralize anything in the water. So that's bacteria, protozoa, as well as viruses, which is one of the plus sides of using a purifier. The great thing about these guys is that they're really lightweight and they're very easy to use. And obviously they also treat against viruses, which is pretty cool. Some of the downsides of using a UV purifier is that you're pretty limited on water quantity. You can generally only filter a small amount of water, something say in your water bottle. A great thing is that you never need to replace or clean this element down here, but they do require batteries, so you will need to carry extra batteries with you if you're using a UV purifier. Also, silty or dirty water will generally slow down or prevent you from being able to purify the water, so you will need to use some sort of pre-filter. Again, this is not a filter, it's just killing anything in the water, so it's a good idea to use a pre-filter anyway, since it's not going to neutralize against dirt. You don't want dirt in your water. So that is a UV purifier. Next, we have chemical treatment of the water. There are a lot of different types of chemical treatments, but the main ones are going to be a chlorine-based or an iodine-based treatment. The great thing about chemical treatments is that they're really small and lightweight, and they're generally pretty inexpensive. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to drop the tablets or drops into your water, stir, and wait. This is really the ideal backup option to carry, even if you have another form of water treatment, just because they are so small and lightweight. The downside of using these as your main form of water treatment is that you'll have to wait somewhere between 30 minutes to sometimes 4 hours for your water to be potable. And water temperatures can affect how long it takes for the water to be treated. Also, something to note with iodine is that it will leave a sort of bad metallic taste, and there are things you can add to your water in addition to the iodine to neutralize that taste. It also will not treat against cryptosporidium, which is a protozoa, and it's also not a good option for pregnant women or people who have thyroid conditions. So, choose what's going to work best for you for chemical treatments. And lastly, you may be saying to yourself, well, I have heard that boiling water works as a treatment, and it does. If you're going to boil water and choose that as your form of treatment, you'll need to bring the water to a rolling boil for a full minute or for a full 3 minutes if you're over 6,500 feet in elevation. The downside of boiling water, while you don't have to purchase any extra element, is that you do have to have extra fuel to carry with you. So weigh the cost as well as the weight for choosing boiling as your form of treatment. Also, boiling water will sometimes leave a weird, funky, metallic, and flat taste to your water. And keep in mind that if you're using that as your drinking water, you'll need to boil it and then wait for it to cool before you can drink it. We hope this helped you choose a water filter. If you want any more information, check out this video or anything on the REI Expert Advice page. And we'll see you out there.
Any thoughts on that, Travis? Anybody? I think your mic is off, Travis.
It's because I was talking bad about you. I was just talking lots of bad things about you. No,
It's okay. I can read lips. I know all about it.
I've been using a pump filter for probably the last 30 years, and I love every bit of it. Like, I'll carry the pump because it just seems to work. I've never really had issues with it. I've never gotten sick from it. I've used my fair share of iodine, and it's disgusting, and nobody wants to drink iodine. As much as you think you can try to get rid of the flavor, you can. It's there. So I'm a big fan of the pump filters. I know people love the Sawyer squeezes. I still can't get behind the Sawyer squeeze. I would much rather use my Ketadine pump filter. It just seems to work great for me.
Yeah.
Travis?
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, the pump filter, that also is filtering out viruses as well, isn't it?
So mine is the Hiker, not the Hiker Pro. The Hiker does not. But I still haven't had any issues with it.
All right.
Unless it's caused all my issues. I don't know.
Yeah. I've actually used the Sawyer for the last several seasons. I like it. I didn't do a very good job the last time back flushing it out and just kind of cleaning it before I put it away. So I think it has really slowed so I need to replace that filter just because I do have a backpacking trip coming up. The other thing that what I've been doing too is, like, in the morning, I'm boiling my coffee for a little breakfast or a little coffee or whatever. And so what I've been doing is, since I'm boiling it anyway, is I will boil a full pot and a full everything up and use all that extra as, I just throw that in my water bottle and it will generally fill that up. So it doesn't really take a lot extra fuel, I don't think. It's just a way of not just kind of mixing things up a little bit. Rather than have to do my cooking and then I have to go do my purifying and stuff like that. I've already got, a pretty healthy amount to get started on my day and stuff. But it's just kind of a little technique that I've kind of used over the last couple trips and kind of seems to be working. is when I do make my dinners or whatever, I'll just boil extra and not have to depend on that. But
After I used to guide at a company where they provided all of our gear for us, and we couldn't really use our own gear because we had to take kids that were underserved and required dietitians to be involved with who we were working with. So we had to use iodine consistently. So we would go on 20-day trips with just iodine. So these kids, first off, hated the taste of iodine. So we had to like force feed them water because they couldn't drink the water. So I would legitimately, for a 5-day backpacking trip, I would bring 3 water bottles, and I would save one undrank water bottle in my bag and never touch it until about 3 or 4 days into the trip, because I just couldn't drink any more iodine. I just wanted one clean bottle of water. So I would keep making iodine water out of my 2 bottles and save my 3rd bottle for like a happy day at my 3rd day, because it was just so miserable.
yeah. Oh, I can see
That's
that.
why I don't drink water.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh my gosh.
They required us to use iodine. It was the only safe way to get drinking water in the backcountry. It was so obnoxious.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I got another question for both of you, all 3 of you. What are your thoughts on gravity filters?
I haven't really used one. Now I know Tony uses one and loves it, and so it's a great idea. You know, that Sawyer, there's a lot of different ways that you can use it. You can use it as a gravity inline. You can use it on your bladder, or you can use it just right as a squeeze, or you can squeeze it off into your water bottle too. So there's a lot of different, but I actually haven't used a specific, gravity fed. It just seems like a lot to take along, extra bottle, things like that.
The concept's great because literally you can, if you have your water source and the water source is close to your campsite, you can just fill it up as you go set up your camp, as you go do all your stuff. Your water is getting purified and you're not doing anything. So the concept of simplicity is really nice. The issue is, as they were saying in that last video or 3 videos ago, is that collecting water with it, it's trying to fill a bag from a river source. It needs to be a flowing river source so you can actually fill the bag, because you're not going to be able to fill enough water inside the bag with just a little trickle, where something else you can potentially fill a lot more water source from a trickle.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a good point, and that's the downside with the Sawyer. That their bags are horrible to get water in. They're really stiff, and they want to stay flat, and you actually have to open them, get them opened up, and to get water into them. It's kind of tough. It's really a tough one. So I'm guessing
that's why that pump filter can be useful, because you can use them in any circumstance.
Yeah, that's a big advantage for that one for sure. Bear canisters. Here's a little bit on that, and we probably have maybe even a little bit more information on this too.
Hey guys, I'm Miranda with REI. It's important to protect your food from bears, and some places may actually require you to carry a bear canister. How do you decide which one is right for you? Let's talk about it. So anything that markets itself as a bear canister is going to be made from a bear-resistant material, but then there's a wide variety of shapes and sizes and colors that you might find, as well as access to the contents inside the canister. So some canisters, like this one, will have a screw-like mechanism on the top, and these you will unlock to open the canister. You can unlock these with a quarter or a screwdriver, or with really sharp fingernails if you have them. This does require you to carry something else with you, but one easy way to make this easier is to carry a washer attached to a cord on your pack. This makes it really simple to unlock and then open the canister. So this one has a built-in mechanism. Other canisters like this one might have screws, so you'll unscrew those fully. Again, you can use that washer and then just make sure you don't lose them. Another type of access to a canister you might find are these screw locks that have these tabs, like these guys here, that will essentially keep the canister from being opened by bears, but can be opened by people. And so you'll unlock these by pressing and then pushing the tab past the lock. This is a little challenging to do, especially when it's cold outside because the material is less malleable and your fingers are cold, but it can be made a little bit easier by sliding a credit card in there or just by using something that has a little bit more surface area to press down and open up the canister. So those are just two of the main types of canister access that you might find. As you can see, they also come in a variety of sizes. So small canisters like this one are great for weekend trips or where you're just carrying food for yourself. And then larger canisters like these guys allow you to carry food for multiple days or for multiple people. Bright canisters like this orange one make it easy to find them at night if you hide them away from your camp. And then canisters that are clear make it easier to see the contents inside the canister. If you like the idea of having something really bright, you can always add reflective strips of tape or color to the outside of your canister and then give it a little bit of useful personalization. So that's bear canisters. If you are headed in a place that requires you to carry a bear canister and you don't want to carry something like this, you can check regulations and see if a bear sack might be allowed. So this is a bear sack. These are made from a bear-resistant material, so the bears can't bite or claw through this material. And these are not always allowed in areas that require bear canisters, so make sure you're checking regulations before you get something like this. The plus side of a bear sack is that it is much lighter and much more compact than a bear canister. The downside is that if not used properly, bears can crush your food and then you'll be eating macaroni powder for the duration of your trip. So make sure you're following the manufacturer's directions, and then you can also get an aluminum liner to help protect the contents of your bear sack and make it less likely for bears to crush it. You want to take all these factors into consideration when you're choosing what's best for you, balancing the weight and size and ease of access with whether or not you can use a bear sack or canister where you're camping. While these are really great and lightweight, one of the coolest things about carrying a bear canister is that you can use it as a seat at camp, and it's really the one thing that makes it bearable. If you want to watch some other videos on how to deal with food storage at camp, check out videos here. If you haven't already, hit subscribe below. We'll see you later.
Now I know we've gotten some recent, I guess, updates on some of these canisters, and even the new one that REI came out with, as far as making it legal in the local national parks. So, because I think that some of these bear vaults, I think some of the sizes aren't allowed. Is that what you're hearing too, Travis?
Yeah,
some of the smaller ones.
The smaller ones are not, and they're like the ultra light. Nothing ultra light about them, but the lightweight ones are there's a word for it. I can't think of it right this very second, but they're barely lighter. But because they haven't been certified to be bear safe, the parks won't allow them.
Yeah, and then the REI version is it's a great concept, but yeah, it just hasn't been cleared for that. So that's a big deal. You need to kind of check with where you're at. And I can only speak for the local national parks here, Kings Canyon, Sequoia, and Yosemite. It's funny. Bears as a subject are sort of like, sharks in a surfing subject. It's kind of, they're out there. You kind of have to deal with them. But there's ways of coexisting with them as well too. So, but let's see what else I got in here. I don't know. I kind of forgot what.
I know you wanted to talk about firearms and so forth, but can I interrupt about bear safety and talk about bear spray for a minute?
Yeah. That'd be great. I appreciate that, because it is something. Bear spray, bear horns. I kind of fell short on the presentation as far as covering that stuff, but yeah, give me what you got.
So we are in an area where, yes, there are bears, there are sharks when you go surfing. Bears are all over. I was reading some statistic that, like, again, I'm making this number up right now, but it was like 75 bears a year get hit by a car in Kings Canyon, Sequoia. And I said, how is that even possible? But there are bears all over, and that's just part of the course. It's being in the woods. It's what happens. I have not been in grizzly country enough to say, like, oh, I know all about grizzlies, so don't quote me on anything for grizzlies. But black bear, typically are terrified of people and want nothing to do with you unless you're sitting in your tent with your Snickers bar and sleeping next to your Snickers bar. It might want to eat your Snickers bar because it says, that seems good. So make sure you are packing your food in your bear safe and your bear vaults and so forth to make sure you're safe. Bear spray is a great thing for grizzlies. I cannot imagine needing bear spray versus a black bear. I just feel like you can stand up and be tall to a black bear and scare the hell away from you really fast unless there's cubs involved. I'm sorry, I'm very sick right now. So if I'm sounding really weird, I'm really sick right now, just to give you a heads up. But if you are in black bear country, you making noise and talking to your friends is enough usually to keep away bear. If you do get an opportunity to see a bear, cool, enjoy it. They're going to run away from you about 6 seconds anyway. Take the enjoyment out of the 6 seconds you get to see him. As long as you're keeping your food in a bear canister of some sort or bear safe or whatever, you're going to be pretty well protected. Bear bells. I watched a guy on trail yesterday. Yesterday he had a bell on his trekking pole, so every time he walked, his bell shook. And I'm like, can you turn off the stupid bell? I have to listen to you walk with this thing. And it was, it obviously serves a purpose to get you aware, but I don't think a bear is going to delineate between a bear bell and normal sounds of nature. I just don't see that being the case. As far as bear spray goes, it's technically illegal in all of Yosemite, Kings Canyon, any California national park. It's illegal to have it because it's considered a firearm, which is, $1,000 fine if you were caught with bear spray in those parks, which I don't feel like spending $1,000.
I completely agree with you. I think that bears. One of the biggest things too is you have to kind of look at your surroundings and do you have this encounter? Do you have them trapped? Do they have a way to escape? Do they feel threatened? And if they don't feel threatened and they could go anywhere, you just happen to be there, chances are they're gonna take that course. Now, like you said, Travis, and I tell this to people too. Now, if I'm walking down the trail and here comes a bear in the opposite direction, heading right for me, and I'm working on a big old ham sandwich, he might be pretty interested in me, but so would a coyote or something else too. So, but that's not really going to happen. I really don't carry a mobile deli with me, so it's. You just kind of give them a way to get past you and move on. Do their thing.
So that was a good rendition. This stuff is great. It does save lives. It saves both the bear's life and your life, because a lot of times a bear will be put down if it attacks a human. And I'd rather not have a bear put down because of my stupidity, because usually it's your stupidity that caused the bear attack. So bear spray will first off then have the bear associate humans with this horrible spray that got sprayed in my face and not want to deal with humans. So you're saving other people's lives as well as your life and the bear's life. So I'm a big proponent of bear spray. I just do not think it's needed for black bear. I think black bear, Afton and I used to work at a place where we would see 2 bear a week on trail. 2 bear a week, and that's a lot of bears to see each week. And we would everything from bear hangs to everything like that. This is before bear canisters. I think before the Garcia, that black bear canister that she had, before that guy even came out. So we've definitely seen our fair share of bears, and I've never had an issue with a bear. And I've spent a lot of time in the wilderness, so I'm a proponent of bear spray in grizzly country. I think it can absolutely 100% save your life and the bear's life, and I think it's phenomenal. I do not carry it, so
yeah. I think to be honest with you, the bigger threat would be a mountain lion. They're stealthier. They it's one of those things, you don't see them very often, but they may see you often, and you just don't know about it. But so that's a whole different story there. That's kind of what I've got today. And so that's going to conclude, backpacking and hiking. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to take next weekend off and try out some of these techniques. So,
Awesome.
and then we'll get started on some surfing. I think Laura and I are actually looking at grabbing a campsite, and I'm trying to think, it was for late September over at the coast for a few days. And so we might kind of tie that in with a surf day too, since we're already going to be over there. And I'll just haul all my boards over there, and we can do that too. But anyway, we'll get into that when in 2 weeks, start our surfing sessions and stuff, and go from there. Anybody else got anything else to throw out there? Afton, you got anything?
No.
Yeah. All right.
But very useful as always, Dave.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Very welcome. I appreciate everybody's. The other one thing I wanted to kind of throw in there too is, anybody, because there are people that are viewing these, and I just want to throw out a invitation. Join us. I mean, throw me your email address, and so you can get, and I'll send you an invite. And I would love to fill up this screen with 20 or 30 opinions on some of these things, and we just get, because I think I don't know everything at all. I'm just sharing what I've got, but I would love to hear anybody that has other things to share, and it'd be fantastic to get because there's different techniques that people have coming from different parts of the country. Maybe they hike and have different experiences, whether it's, they're rainy climates or dry climates or what have you, and throw it all in there. So I just want to invite anybody that sees these things that, and even if you don't have experience, jump in here with us. We would love to have, a bigger crowd and a bigger pool of information that we can share. So, all right, guys. Always great time. Thanks everybody for contributing.
Thank you.
And you guys have a great afternoon. And Sam, we'll see you in about an hour.
See you soon.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, Dave. Thanks again.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Travis. Bye, Afton.
Bye.
take
thank
care.
you.
Yeah.